everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be answering 10 frequently asked questions that I get about doll collecting in general and tips and tricks for taking care of your collection and things about how to collect in the first place. So the first question that I've been getting a lot of lately is, how do you deal with dust on your dolls? So there's 3 tips I have here. The first one is, I vacuum my doll room a lot. So, and a lot to me is like a few times a week. That might not be a lot to some people, but I vacuum in here a few times a week, and that helps keep a lot of the dust and things low. At least I feel like it does. And I'll also take the hose on the vacuum and run it along the window sills and run it along some of the cabinets and things. The other thing, I have these glass doored cabinets from IKEA. And so those help keep dust way low on the dolls that are inside the cabinet. But as you've seen in my room, I have a wall of dolls over here that are open and exposed because they are this open shelving. So what do I do when they get dusty? I use a Swiffer duster cloth. Now this is actually a Bobo Swiffer, it's not a Swiffer brand, but these are really great for dusting dolls because they're super soft and you can rub it on a doll's face. This is one of the more valuable dolls that I own, and you can rub it on her face and she is not going to be damaged at all. So that's really cool. Like, it's just really nice and soft and it gets rid of the dust. You can also use these to actually dust inside the cabinets, but I would use a fresh one. Use a fresh one for the dolls, and you can use an older one for the cabinets, because what you don't want to happen is you don't want to pick up debris on this and then use it on a doll's face and then that face becomes scratched up. That's a huge no-no. So these work really well for collecting dust and for keeping the dolls fresh. Now, how often do I dust? I don't dust that often. When I see that they need it, I will grab one of these and I'll come in and carefully go over them, but it's not something that I do really super frequently. But that is what I do when I notice that dust is becoming a problem on the dolls themselves. So that's what I do about dust. The next question that I got was, what do I do about doll boxes? Doll boxes depends on the doll itself, it depends on how much the doll costs, and it depends on the type of box that the doll came in. So what I'm going to show you guys on the other side of my room right now is a box of boxes that I'm about to take up to my attic for storage. So if you look over here, this is a box full of doll boxes. These are boxes for more expensive dolls that I wanted to save the boxes for, and I'm going to take them up and store them in my attic because I don't have anywhere down below to store them. So these are those boxes. A lot of dolls these days, though, don't even come in boxes, or a lot of the dolls that I buy, because I buy a lot of ball jointed dolls, they come in an outer shipping box, but there's not a doll box inside. They just come in a wrap. And so what I do with my wraps is I clip them to a pants hanger like this, and I hang them in my closet. And I find that to be a great solution for hanging onto those wraps. Even better if you can remember which wrap goes with which doll, because I don't usually remember that. These I know who they belong to because they're very distinctive, but like the plain white wraps, I don't know which doll that went with. But that's a good way for keeping all your wraps in order, is just hang them on those pants hangers and leave them hanging in a closet. And they're flatter, so you can store more of those more easily than like boxes. So the boxes that I throw out are going to be boxes like, you've seen me open old 80s dolls that have really grungy, kind of gross boxes. I throw those out. If I'm buying a new doll that's a Playline doll, I never keep those boxes. I toss those. So it just depends on the doll, whether I'm going to keep the box or not. I just tossed 2 Willy Wisher boxes that I had been hanging on to for a few years. But, you know, they're kind of common dolls, and I've been finding them more out at thrift stores and stuff like that, so I don't feel like hanging on to that box was a great use of my space. So I did end up tossing those as well. I do have all my old American Girl boxes, like from the 90s, so I have all those. But it just, again, depends on the doll as to whether I save the box or not. The next question I get, this is the third question, is how do I even decide what to collect? So that's a great question, because how does one decide what to collect? I don't just decide, wake up one day. I didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, I want to start collecting ball jointed dolls. That's not what happened at all. What happened was I went to a doll show, IDS in 2014, and I saw ball jointed dolls for the first time in my life. I was a doll collector then, but my main collection was Playline vinyl from other countries and vintage vinyl, like Christy dolls, my Nancy Famosas, American Girls. Basically this cabinet that you see behind me, this was my primary like collecting that I did back in that day. I still collect them now, but I went to IDS, it was IDS then, there was no T, there were no teddies at that time. I mean, they were there, but they didn't call it that. So I went there, and they had a lot of ball jointed dolls, and I fell in love with them. I saw, as a matter of fact, she's right here. I'll pull her out. I saw this doll. Her name is Lola. She wasn't a showgirl. Actually, she was a showgirl. Her name is Lola, and she was a showgirl, because I saw her at the show, and she's by Birdie & Creedy, and I absolutely became smitten with this doll. And at the time, she was $500, and $500 at the time was, I had never in my life even dreamed of spending $500 on a doll. So, and at that time I was also a teacher. So I was like, there's no way I'm buying that doll. That is insane. And anyway, so I get back home and I could not stop thinking about this doll, and that, whoops, and there was another doll from Kim Arnold. I'm gonna show her to you guys now. This doll. So I had seen both of these dolls at IDS, both ball jointed dolls, and I fell in love with the two dolls. And again, they were both very expensive, and I did not go into that show prepared to spend that sort of money, but I fell in love with the faces. And so that's kind of how I decided to start collecting ball jointed dolls, is I just really like the faces. Poor Lola, she's just like a mess because I can't hold her right. But so I didn't wake up one day all of a sudden and say, hey, I want to collect ball jointed dolls. I went to a show, I saw the dolls, I fell in love. That's how I decide what to collect. So I will see a picture of a doll, or I will read a blog post about a doll, or I'll watch a YouTube video about a doll. Funny story, I've been watching Mini Stitches on Instagram. She's Barbie Mini Stitches. I have been watching her YouTube channel, and because of her, there is a doll I have ordered because I just love seeing her interact with her doll. It's a Pasha Pasha Mini. I've seen her interact with the doll. I just kind of fell in love with I could see the size of the doll and how you can interact with the doll, and I ordered one. So that's how I decide what to collect, is if I see something and I really fall in love with it, I collect it. That's how I ended up collecting Nancy's, because I saw that face and I thought it was so sweet, and so I wanted to collect it. And so that's really how I decide on what to collect. A follow-up to that question number 4, is, do you ever collect as an investment, like with the intention that the doll's going to be worth more money one day? I do and I don't. So the answer to that is yes and no. What do I mean by that? So there are certain dolls that when you buy them, you know you will not have any issue reselling them on the secondary market, because there is a really good trade. It's a doll that people want to buy. People are always looking for it. Case in point, here's a perfect case in point for that, are Mamoni dolls. People are constantly looking to buy a Mamoni doll, especially the full-size girls. So I didn't buy them for an investment at all, but there is a really good secondary market for them. If you had to sell the doll, you could, and you wouldn't have any issue doing it, and you could sell it pretty quickly. Where there's other dolls, like let's say Barbies or whatever, that the second, or I think even Little Fees, because I've been able to get my 2 Little Fees pretty inexpensively. So I feel like the secondary market for Little Fees maybe not as good as for like Mamoni, for example. So I think about those things, like if I'm able to get a Little Fee for, you know, a lot less on the secondary, a legit one. I always buy legit. I make sure it's legit before I buy anything, which that's a whole nother topic, but I always make sure they're legit. But, you know, that's something that I do consider a little bit before I buy a doll, because I don't want to sink a ton of money into a doll and then later in life, you know, it's only going to be worth, you know, 10% of what I paid. But at the same time, you can't see the future with dolls. So these, you know, it is very possible that, you know, 10 years down the road, none of these dolls will be worth anything, because dolls are a luxury. Most art is a luxury. It's a luxury that I love and that I'm willing to spend money on, but you never know what's going to happen. So I don't really look at them as an investment. I don't look at them as a bad investment, which some people do, because they'd say, oh, you spent all this money on dolls. So it's like, I can buy these things, they make me happy. If I need to resell them, I can, you know, just depending on the market conditions. So that probably wasn't like a direct answer like that you would want, but I would never buy a piece of art with the pure intention of, I'm going to make money on this, because the art world is very, you know, I mean, it's not a Leonardo da Vinci. I saw like a Leonardo da Vinci painting sold for $400 million at auction to a Saudi prince. I don't think any of my dolls are going to sell for $400 million to a Saudi prince, but Saudi princes, if you're watching and you want anything in this room for $400 million, just leave me a comment below. So anyway, so following up again with pricing, the kind of going in the same vein here, is question number 5 is, where do you buy your dolls? So my number one place that I like to buy dolls is at doll shows. I like to go to a lot of doll shows, and I like to buy directly from the artist at the doll show. That to me gives me the confidence, A, that the doll is real and it's not a recast or, you know, a fake or a copy or whatever. I also like supporting the artist, because I do collect primarily artists. When I'm buying a new doll now, it's primarily an artist doll. If I'm not buying at a show, I like to buy directly from the artist. So the Pasha Pasha doll that I was just saying that I bought her directly from Pasha Pasha's website. They had them in stock. It's the Simply Beautiful line. They had them in stock, so I bought from there. If I hadn't done that, I would have more than likely got in on a pre-order at whenever one became available. Once in a while, I do buy on the secondary market. Like I mentioned, my Little Fees that I bought. When you buy on the secondary market, if it's a BJD, I always try to be sure that it is legit. So I'll get like original paperwork, like the emails from where they bought it and stuff like that. I buy on Facebook a lot. So when I say directly from the artist, I mean most of the artists are on Facebook, or they have their own website, or they're on Instagram. So like my Hush doll, the artist, Gwendolyn Napalm, she's on Instagram. I messaged her directly and asked her if she had one, and she did, and so I was able to buy. She has a website too, but there wasn't anything on her website, so I messaged her directly and was able to get it. So I try to buy directly from the artist when I can. If the doll's not available, I will go to Facebook, to the buy and sell groups on Facebook. I very rarely buy on eBay anymore. Now, I used to buy, like most of these types of dolls, I do buy from eBay because there's more of a market out there for those, and they're listed more often, like the Nancy dolls and stuff like that. But as far as my ball jointed dolls, I think I've bought one ball jointed doll off eBay ever. So, and it was legit, it wasn't a problem, but you just have to be very careful with that. And so that is how I buy, that's where I buy my dolls, because I get that question a lot. Where do you buy them? Where do you buy them? Well, usually directly from the artist. Still in the same line of questioning of selling, buying. What if I want to sell a doll? Where would I sell my dolls? I sell my dolls on the Facebook groups. So there is a healthy buy and sell market on Facebook for dolls. I mostly post them just to my personal Facebook page because I have so many friends that are doll collectors. Usually somebody will buy what I have for sale. I'll also go to the specific groups for the dolls that I'm in. and I will post for sale there. Like if I want to sell a specific, you know, kind of doll. Every doll has its own group, and so I'll post them there. That's just the easiest way for me to sell dolls. eBay takes such a big cut these days. I used to sell on eBay a lot. I used to be a power seller, and I would go get dolls at yard sales and stuff like that, and I would sell them on eBay, and I still sell on eBay a little here and there, but nothing like what I used to do, because it's just, they take such a huge cut anymore, and their rules are so weird. It's just way easier to deal with Facebook. And on Facebook, you actually get to kind of know the person that you're selling from, and you know, there's this circle of doll collectors, and you can get feedback from people, and you're going through PayPal, and PayPal is just as protected with a transaction outside of eBay as it would be inside of eBay. So that's where I do most of my selling, is through my personal Facebook page. I do have dolls listed for sale. I don't ever put them up on Instagram, but the best way, if you ever wanted to buy one of my dolls, would be to contact me through Instagram, because, you know, that's where you can find me and message me at. So there's three dolls that I regret having sold ever. So one of them I have not gotten back. Two of them I have gotten back. So of the two that I've gotten back, one that I sold was my Anna Salvador Emily doll, and I regretted having sold her. My husband bought me another one. One that I regretted selling was my Connie Lowe little Ruth, and little Stella goes with Ruth, and I haven't gotten one of those back, but I got her back in a trade, so I'm like, yay. So I always recommend to people, if they're kind of on the fence about selling, because you don't want to sell something that's really hard to get or that doesn't come up for sale often if you think you might regret it. So I always say, if you're thinking of selling a doll, but you're on the fence, you're not sure, change the doll's clothes, change the doll's wig, change the doll's eyes, and see if that changes the way you feel about the doll. Another thing I'll do is I'll look. So here's a great example of that for me personally. I actually, about 9 or 10 months ago, I was considering selling my Mini Feet Chloe. And I was like, well, maybe I just haven't found the look for her that I like. And so what I did is I went on Instagram and I started looking at other people's Chloes, and I was like, this is a beautiful doll. Like, there is no way I can sell her. What am I thinking? And so I didn't sell her. So glad I didn't, because I got her a great wig now, and she's got a good wardrobe, and I absolutely love that doll, and I am just like really happy that I didn't go through with it and sell her. And yeah, Mini Fee is a more common sort of doll, but mine had a face up from Rakuru Sensei, and that would be a whole nother ordeal to get through. So I'm just really glad I didn't. So if you're thinking of selling but you're on the fence, look at other people's photos of your same doll and see if maybe you would like a different style better. Change your doll up and see. And if you still don't feel connected with the doll, go ahead and sell it. That's the way I see that. And again, I find the best place for selling for me personally to be on Facebook. I know a lot of folks sell on Den of Angels. I have never been able to get access to sales on Den of Angels. I go in there and read a lot, but I don't post a lot, so I know they want you to be an active member, so you're not just some shady lurker like trying to sell, which is fine, I get that. But that's a good place from what I hear if you're actually able to access their sales. But Facebook is what works for me, and that's where I sell at. Question number 9 on my list that I get frequently is, how do you display your dolls? And most people that ask that haven't seen my doll room tour, but you've seen as I've gone around the room that I display a lot of dolls in these glass doored IKEA shelves. I'm able to cram a ton of dolls in there. I also have dolls in other IKEA shelves around the room, which, like I said, if you've seen my doll room tour video before, you've seen that. One tip that I have for storing dolls or for displaying dolls is, if you have a lot of dolls like me and you turn your dolls sideways instead of facing front, if you look in this cabinet, for example, I have all the dolls turned sideways. You can fit more of them side to side like that. So that's a big thing that I do, just because I have so many dolls. I turn them all sideways and I can fit more of them in a display case. So that's how I display my dolls. And I have IKEA shelves also around the room, like in other places, but you can see my full doll room tour for that. So that's how I display them. Question number 10 is, how do I plan for incoming dolls? So what I try to do is I try to do a one in, one out rule. You can see on my shelf here that I had to clear out the top 2 shelves because I do have 4 dolls incoming. And it dawned on me the other day, I don't have anywhere to actually display those because every bit of display space is taken up. I didn't actually rehome those dolls, but I found a new place for them in my room. But I have sold quite a few dolls at the beginning of the year. So with the sales, I think I talked about this before, but if I'm going to sell a doll, if it's a doll that I haven't done anything with, I haven't enjoyed it very much in the last 2 years, and it's just something that's kind of sitting on the shelf, that will become a consideration for me to sell. And so what that does is it gives somebody else the enjoyment for that doll. They're able to enjoy it, and then I'm able to get the money from that, and I turn around and take that money and I spend it with another artist on something else, either accessories or on another doll. And so the whole dolly economy goes round and round, because I think it's really important to support artists so that they can continue to do the things that we love as collectors, because in order for them to continue creating art, it has to be sustainable for them. So that's one thing. When I have an incoming doll, I try to look at what doll can I sell, where am I going to put this doll. And also another thing that's fun to do is looking at wigs and clothes and accessories. And so when I'm planning for an incoming doll, I like to look at all those things. I like to decide on what the doll's look's going to be like, but sometimes when a doll arrives, it almost never turns out the way you think, because once you actually get the doll in your hands, you decide on a look. But it's fun to plan a lot of those things when the doll is incoming. So that's how I plan for incoming dolls. But guys, I hope you like these frequently asked questions. They're things that I get across all my social media channels on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. So if you did like it, please give this video a big thumbs up. That really helps my channel out. If you're not subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you consider subscribing to my channel. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.